Hey guys, welcome to Grounded Roots Healing. Now, I just recorded a 20-minute video and the sound was no good because this microphone was too far away from me. I'm going to try to record this again without breaking out into tears because it was a very good video. At least I think it was, but I could barely hear it. So I now have the microphone closer to my face. However, I talk with my hands a lot. I don't know if any of you have noticed. And this is really irritating not being able to move my hands. But I'll try to, let's see, not be Italian in this video. French actually is where most of that comes from, but very, very gesture oriented. So the video that I lost, it started with me describing an acorn. And then it went on to describe views on religion and books. So the acorn concept here, I'll try to be a little more, let's see, less long-winded about it this time around. But essentially, that acorn that you just saw is an oak tree. And it has all the genetic material that required to build an oak tree, all the potentiality of an oak tree in that tiny acorn. And that as humans, the one cell from your father and the one cell from your mother, several cells, combine and create you. And the entire genetic makeup and everything that you're ever going to be is implicit in those very first few cells. And that an acorn can turn into a majestic ancient tree. It's hundreds of years old that can withstand anything. And it exists in the genetic makeup of one of the cells of that acorn. So to me, this implies the only answer is intelligent design. How can you look at those two things that I just described and believe that that's just coincidental? That's just an emergent property of nature. It seemed ridiculous to me. You know how much data there is in that acorn in order to express itself as a tree, let alone a human who's capable of comprehending astrophysics, rocket science, calculus. To me, intelligent design is implicit in the entire nature of things around us. So, nature. Nature has always been my religion. So I was baptized united and then converted to a Catholic after my father converted, baptized in Catholicism, and then I went to church until I was maybe 14, pretty regularly every week, and then I stopped. The entire we haven't raised our children in the church either. My entire direct experience with God has been through nature. And because it's implicit in it. This is why people run to nature and the natural world, is because God is in everything. It's obvious when you're there. You don't need books in order to do this. So I got a message from a friend of mine in Tanzania, and he's not of the same opinion. He asked me what I was doing now for employment, and I used to work in the oil field, and I have since left. And he then, of course, asked me what I was doing now, and I replied something along the lines of healing myself and finding God. Now, in East Africa, they've had various religions jammed down their throats for a long time, and this particular gentleman is Catholic. Now, Christian. Actually, I'm not sure if it's Catholic. Doesn't matter. But he's quite a devout Christian, and he felt, after learning that I use of my opinions on the subject, he felt that I needed a preacher and I needed a book in order to correctly find God, let's say. Of which I vehemently disagreed, but I respect his opinion, and that's fine. Now, this led me to thinking about books. And I don't read many books anymore. It sounds crazy, but in 2013, when I had my first awakening, I read hundreds of books on every religion, trying to figure out if there was a God, figure out the best way to get to him, or it, or the am that I am, or the witch to which there is no witcher. And I spent countless hours scouring texts, and I continued to read after that. Now, I never did get to a convincing conclusion using books. This year I've read 2 books. I read one book about the universe put in my lap about shamanism. Not surprisingly, this is what I've been exploring recently, but this happened quite a while ago. And then I read a book called The Alchemist, which I'm sure many of you know, which I hadn't, for some reason, ever ran into before. And to be honest, I don't think I was ready for that book until I had some direct experience. So this brings me to the preacher that he wants me to go see. I mean, figuratively. And how I feel I don't need it. Because what I'm searching for can't be found in a book. I want direct experience of God. I want to not have to prove anything through words. I want to see it with my own eyes. This eye. Or, God can be expressed in the 3D world, this world here, and you can see things with your own 2 eyes. It's not only on the other side. Miracles happen. Things happen here. The universe will show itself to you if you know how to see it. Cats are roaming around. So they don't cause too much trouble. It's pretty late at night, and this is when they get active. So, direct experience. Now, as I've said before, I say this quite often, it's one of my favorite sayings: religion is the finger pointing at the moon. This is what the Buddhists say. It's supposed to prompt you and show you the direction to look to find God. Point. Look at the moon. The moon is God, and the religion is the prompt to get you to look there. Well, if the moon shows itself to you, do you really need the prompting? So I've been exploring shamanism, and I've had direct communication with beings and entities, let's say, of the higher variety. Why do I need to read about this? If I can simply meditate, drink some ceremonial cacao, and go on a journey in the astral plane, or the lower realm, or the middle world. Pick your pick. They're all accessible. It does not require you to imbibe psychedelic substances in order to experience this. This is not required. You can have direct experience of heaven, and I don't even know what to describe them as. People call them supernatural beings, but they're not super anything. They're just higher vibrational entities that you can't see every day. Well, unless you cultivate this. So I've gone to nature as a way to experience God, and now I've gone inward as a way to experience God. And I spend very little time reading books on opinions about how to get there when it's directly accessible to me and anyone else that wants to try this. The only thing required is that you have an open mind and you try to get your vibration as high as possible before attempting one of these things. And that's it. So why wouldn't you try it? What do you have to lose? I don't understand. Now, the Jason that is 10 months ago or a year ago might have been nervous to try this or might not have had the same belief system that I do have right now. So I understand that. And I also understand that a lot of us have been, say, indoctrinated into certain religions where we're told this is the only way that you can get to God. Hogwash. They all have merit, and they're all just supposed to point you in the direction of God. We become power apparatuses in order to control the people and bring in as many people as possible to make as much money as possible, frankly. Power and control, everything is. And the kingdom of heaven is within you, and that is not a parable. That is the truth. All you have to do to experience it is to look inward. So, I've had experiences where I've been in the presence of archangels. I've had experiences where I've seen angels. I've seen other beings of higher energy, such as seraphim. And I've heard God laugh. So this one, when I had my enlightened state, when I was in my enlightened state for the 3-day period that I described many times before in my videos, I was blissfully washing dishes in Christ consciousness, which, when you're in Christ consciousness, everything is blissful. And I was listening to a podcast. I think it was on the Next Level Soul podcast, but I'm not certain. This was quite a while ago. I was listening to it, and there was a gentleman on there who was describing having heard God laugh. I believe it was like an NDE experience, and how powerful and beautiful it was. And I remember thinking to myself, I'd really like to experience that someday. And as soon as I said that, in my inner vision, hearing, I heard the booming chuckle, the indescribable laugh of God. And the weight and the love that comes out of this entity, the witch to which there is no witcher, is almost unbearable. So I literally immediately started crying and with joy and buckling under the weight of this laugh, you could say. Like my legs were literally giving out, and I was holding myself up on the edge of the sink and shaking under the pressure of this laugh. And it went on for about 10 seconds, at which point it subsided and I regained control of my extremities and I could stand again. And I thought to myself, wow, this is what people describe. So, why in God's laugh, God's name, would I read about this when I can experience this directly? So, that's my thoughts on religion and how religion should be experienced. And I do believe that this is accessible to everybody. And I also know this was what Jesus was trying to teach us. The kingdom of heaven is within us, and that this can be directly experienced. And of course, humans being humans, we twisted this and tried to turn it into some way to control people. But irrelevant. For me now, there is only direct experience. So, like I always say, I hope this video finds you well. I love you all. And I truly pray that you get to experience the laugh of God at some point in your life, like I did. And we'll see you tomorrow.